Hey there, amazing podcast listeners. We just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for being part of our podcast family. Ay, sí, mi gente. Your support means the world to us.
Absolutely. If you enjoy our content, please consider downloading our episodes on your favorite podcast platform. It not only helps us grow, but ensures you never miss a moment of our show.
Ya lo sabes. Download, subscribe, and join us on YouTube. It's that easy. Thanks again for being awesome. And now, let's get back to our show. Happy listening.
Welcome back to No Todo Se Cura con Vex. I am your host, Maggie.
I'm Jessie.
I am Heidi.
And today we have a very, very special show. We are being joined by amazing guests, the two wonderful ladies of I'm Not Yelling, I'm Dominican, Damaris Nachi. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Guys. Thank you so much. Tell us about yourself. Tell us.
I'll let my big sister go first.
No, I was going to say, you go ahead.
Okay. So the name, Damaris, I'm open to both. But so I'm co-host of the podcast, I'm Not Yelling, I'm Dominican. And I think many Dominicans can empathize with that saying of knowing that we're passionate people. So we speak passionately, and sometimes that comes off as loud or yelling, and we're not. And I happily co-host this podcast show with my sister, who I love dearly, and she is like my soul sister on this realm, physical, biological, and just on a spiritual level. So it's been a really exciting ride, and part of that ride is meeting these lovely women at No Todo Se Cura con Vex. And so this is a really exciting opportunity and time for us to talk with you guys.
Yeah. Yes. Welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. And I'm Nachi, the other half of I'm Not Yelling.
A very important half.
No, but we're really excited to be here. When we started our podcast, it was something that was, it was an idea that was birthed by Damaris, and we both brought it into fruition because there's just, there's a lot of pressure that we all deal with. And, Damaris and I, we always talk about the things that we do to manage that pressure and how we navigate this world. And for us, we're like, we got to tell our peoples about this. We can't just keep it to ourselves and not share. Our whole thing is to build a community that we can kind of come together and vibrate higher. So we're happy to be here. Thank you, ladies.
Yes.
Elevate that frequency.
Yeah.
We're ready.
Yes. I love that. So we're going to dive right in. Today is a good one. Today we're talking about what is it like to be a first-gen Dominican or Latina, It is about navigating those two worlds of merengue, bachata, hip-hop, rock and roll, all those wonderful stuff. What was that like, which is a beautiful experience. I love being from two worlds. I really do. And when I put in my phone, on my car, and I'm listening to music, I'm like, you will hear Anthony Santo, and then you will hear, Linkin Park, and then you will hear, Aretha Franklin. It's a mix of everything. And I'm like, that's me. Rock and roll and merengue and hip hop and everything. And we want to share that experience. Like, what was that like for us, growing up? I can say that one of the most vivid things that I can say about like being a first gen, and I feel like a lot of first gen might be able to relate to this, is, you know, at least for me, I was like my parents, you know, personal assistant. I was translating since I was like 9, right? And reading papers and I had no idea what they were saying. You know, leme esto.
I'll try to translate this legal document.
Right. I have no idea what those words are.
I don't even understand it now. And I'm an adult.
Spanish, like certain words in Spanish. You're like, what the heck?
Right. How do you translate that?
Yeah. So let's, you know, dive into like, what was that like personal experience as a first generation Dominican for you guys?
Well, Maggie, I agree. I do love the fact that we grew up in 2 different cultures, albeit it wasn't always easy, but there was a beauty behind it, because with that, I feel like you're able to navigate this world. I mean, for me, when I'm home or I'm with family and I'm listening to merengue, bachata and all that, it feels like home. When I hear it, it feels like home, right? That's just like, oh yes. Whenever, you know, we were growing up, we would talk about DR. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going back home, right? That's not where we were born, but that's how we always refer DR, which is like, oh, that's back home, because that's where our family came from. That's you know, past generations, you know, that we are connected with. But then we have this beauty, and I feel like not only our parents migrated to the United States, they migrated right into New York City, which I feel like it's like another country. Because I tell people New York City it's actually that's a nationality right there. When you say you're from New York, that's a nationality, right? It's
jungle.
Yeah, it's like a culture in itself.
Yes,
and it had that, you know, its beauty there. And Damaris and I had talked about how for us growing up in the 80s, we were surrounded around hip hop. So when we listen to that, that gives us that those memories of our childhood when we grew up in the Bronx and listening to hip hop music, watching the dancers, you know, dancing outside in the streets where, you know, people are just hanging out and just enjoying life. I mean, I used to love that.
And DJs actually playing a set. Like DJs were outside.
Yeah,
that was exactly. In the park.
Exactly. It was just like such a fun time. And the funny part about it is like, I wanted to enjoy that fun time, but when we were in New York City, in the Bronx, my mother especially, she was just like, no, you're not going outside. I don't know these people. I don't know them. You're not, I'm not going outside. I got things to do. We grew up in a strict household in a sense, right? It wasn't like we could go out and just, okay, we're going to hang out with our friends outside. No, my mother was not about that. She was like, no, although she could see me from the window, she could see me if I went out, but no, for her it was just like, no, I don't know those people. But at the same time, we had a connection with our own family. Like our cousins, they were our first friends, right? Like that's how I look at it. They were our first friends. This is who we, you know, got together with on the weekends, who we grew up and experienced life with, and you know, so it didn't feel like we missed out on anything, right? Okay, yes, we couldn't go to that block party, but
we watched it from the window.
From the fire escape.
We were close.
Right. Exactly. So I just feel like that's just a beautiful mesh of those 2 worlds where we were able to, you know, jump and morph into any different types of circles because of how we grew up and, living in the Dominican household, as well as, living in the Bronx in hip hop world where everything, was live and directed at that time. And it still is, but it's just like it's
Very much.
Yeah, stand up. I love it.
but I wouldn't trade that experience, for anything else. I think it's a wonderful, for me, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, I would just add that, like Nachi said, for me, what I hold dear in my life has always been my family, and that really has been because of our Dominican upbringing, the traditions of how important family is, and not just our immediate family, but that extended family, and how important they are as a village, right? Because there were times where my mom had to work, and we would spend days with our tia, and that's just what it was. It was like we were a community, and they helped each other out as sisters, siblings, and her nieces and nephews are like her kids the same way we are to our aunts and uncles. So that is something that I love, having grown up that way. And it was a different culture. Like Nachi said, New York City was its own culture, and then just going to Dominican Republic and having that as a background too, and one that I love. I mean, it's just, when I think about DR, it's the smell when you land from off the train.
Yes, that
It's a unique
smell.
that it's just like grilled food and just like everything just hitting you at once. But I love it. I live for that, right? And so that is, we dealt with parents that were on us like white on rice. Yes. Literally, as sometimes I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But I get that too, because it was the Bronx in the 80s and 90s. I mean, these kids got it easy now. I remember dudes, our high school friends getting pistol whipped on the train. That's just like, ooh, shit is real. But, and I appreciate why my parents were the way that they were. And that's just something we just lived with, and we figured it out. And I think, like Nachi said, it helps me be more empathetic when engaging with people, having come from a first gen background, because I understand what it's like when there's a language barrier. I mean, my father he spoke perfect English. He just had a very thick accent. And he was self-conscious about that in a weird way where I'm like, do you understand how much smarter you are than so many of these people out here that were born and raised here? And he knew that, but, he's like, how do you say that word, mommy? And I'm like, it's like this, you said it. I'm like, you sound good, Poppy. I'm like, I'm here fucking up words in Spanish. I'm like, we're fine. We're good. You're good, Poppy. But they did it, and I'm so proud of them for that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely the experience of, I felt like our parents, especially, they were more about creating experiences for us. And when Damaris mentioned, our father asking, like, how do you say this? It took me back to a time where he took us to the Waldorf Astoria for lunch. It was like a brunch. And for him, it was just like, okay, I want to share an experience with my daughters of a beautiful restaurant, 5-star restaurant, so that they know what that feels like. And we're waiting to be seated, and he was like, he needed to use the restroom, but he kept saying, where's the toilet? Where's the toilet? Right? And I looked at him and I was just like, it's restroom. He was like, okay, where's the restroom? And it's those moments, but just like Damaris, it did teach me how to be empathetic to people, especially those who've migrated to our country and trying to navigate this world. It's just like, it's not easy, and you have to be patient, and you just have to
see having a soft heart when you see like a struggling, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
That's it. Exactly.
It is. And it's almost like admirable, for one, because it's like, would I be able to move to a whole other country?
No.
Where I don't know their language?
Absolutely not.
No.
No.
I don't know their language, and I'm having to work and support my family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's amazing to me. Like they have, for me, immigrants have much respect for me.
Amen.
Always. Always.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
to uproot yourself from your home country to a whole other country that at times are
It's hostile to you.
Yes.
It's hostile.
Yeah.
And you still succeeding in this world. My hat is always up.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
Absolutely.
I always
talk about
my
resilience.
husband-
Yes.
Yeah. I always tell my husband, I'm like, I hold a very like soft spot for like, those like elderly or like, people that are either, Dominican or, even if they're not that, because I'm like, that could be my mom and my dad.
Exactly.
Right.
Our mom doesn't speak English,
And she's been here for like 30 years, right?
Yeah. And our dad, he defends himself.
Yeah.
Él se defiende con lo que sabe,
Good.
but
That's right.
So like, when I see people like that, like I have a really like soft like spot because I'm like, that could be mommy, and
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's like you were also saying, like we did grow up in this like community where it's like it wasn't only like our immediate family, like my mom, my dad, and my sister. It was like my mom, my dad,
Yeah, your
the
extended family.
primo, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like so weird because a lot of people are like you hang out with your cousins. I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? I don't. What?
I'm obsessed with my family.
You don't?
Yes.
You don't see your cousins?
To me, I'm always excited to be around family. It's the best thing ever. I feel sorry for people who don't have a relationship with their family.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh, that's so sad.
I don't even know what that is.
Right.
Right?
But it was like pretty much the way that you guys were also raised. Like we were all living in this one building. We're from the Upper West Side, and we were just in this building. It was all the primas and the primos, and those are the only people you can hang out. It's so funny because we were talking about dating. We had an episode that it was about los novios escondido. And we would be like, los novios escondido was my cousin's friend because we couldn't hang out. We didn't meet guys.
So you had to come to the house.
Basically, that is the only way.
Or a guy in the building. It was like that, like your parents. They would be watching
Oh my goodness.
It was insane.
But it's the whole family watching you.
Yes.
You had it even worse.
Let me tell you.
Todavía hiding en el bloque.
Let me tell you.
No.
I am so happy that my father decided that he was not going to live, because my mother's side of the family, their largest 9 siblings, and they literally almost all of them lived in the same vicinity within like a block or two from each other.
Wow.
But we didn't. Right? My dad was like, nope, I'm not doing that. But thank God, because it would have just been like that. They would have been like, I saw Nachi over there on the corner.
No, seriously.
Some boy talking to some boy.
That was our experience.
And it wasn't only, right, Jesse and Mag, it wasn't only like the uncles and the aunts. That the guy cousins would be intimidating. They would like walk around like, this guy.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Yeah.
Who's this? I'm the guy, like you're gonna mess them up or something.
Yes. So, I think because of their experience, like you were mentioning, like their experience of coming into this country where everything is different, language, culture, school system, everything is so different. They had to find ways to protect their family. They had to find ways to feel safe. And I think that's the reason why it was like, tú no vas a salir. ¿Para dónde tú vas? Ah, Heidi va contigo. Meg with you? Okay, si van juntas. Y mira, you need to come back at this time.
Yes.
Yep.
it was a beautiful community. Like, I tell my kids all the time, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think there were so many amazing things that you are doing that I didn't get to do as first generation, but I really love my upbringing. Like, it was so much fun. It's nothing like they don't have that community.
No,
No, it's not the same. I mean, when you just said how much fun it was, I just think about the parties, right? Literally, it was like every Saturday
God.
was a freaking party. I'm like, do y'all not settle down? Like, y'all not tired? And we would go to these parties. It would be, some tia's house, Luisa, someone, right? And we go. And it's the kids. We're tired at some point, so we're sleeping on a bunch of coats. The merengue is like boom, 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 boom. I'm like, but we're asleep. It doesn't matter. Or we're still running around, hopped up on Coca-Cola, and just like, I mean, there's one party that we actually had in our apartment, and my cousin never fails to bring it up. Nachi and I, we had bunk beds, and there's like a gang of kids. There's like about 10 on the top bunk. And they're like, just like pumping, like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh my God.
And there were 2 people on the bottom bunk. Somehow they got out on time because that's how bunk collapsed.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
It was
And
like the angels watching over
thankfully,
them.
no one got hurt. All we did was just leave the room and kept screaming and partying. My father probably fixed it later on that night. And it was like, whatever. It's like, kids will be kids.
Yeah.
What? Where is the supervision?
No, I know.
No. You're like, you supervise each other. You watch each other play. What?
Well, that's one thing.
And I love
parents, that. Yeah, no, definitely.
We have stories.
I love the 80s and 90s.
They just didn't give a fuck.
No, but it's true. In the party, that's when you could have the soda, the candy, the cake.
Yeah.
You could run
De
around.
todo.
Just, yeah.
Voila.
They're not watching you like that. So
No,
if you're a teenager, you were happy.
Our parents were even part of a social club in New Jersey, and we would go
Social
there.
glue, Nachi glue.
¿Cómo se llamaba?
It was like the San Andres
Oh,
something.
no! I thought
remember.
I thought Damaris would say.
No, but
No, she said El Club, 'cause every
Oh,
time
El Club, yeah.
we knew where we were going.
Come on, Jesse, come on. El glue.
But that was like another. If we weren't at, one of our tia's house, or we were in New Jersey in
El Club.
in the
Yeah, and El glue.
in El Club, we would be there hanging out and just running around. And it's like they have. And I think about me as a parent. I don't have the social life that my parents had when we were growing up.
No,
Like they didn't stop
true.
partying. They did not
weird.
stop partying.
I don't have the energy to party.
That too.
No, that like
That too. That part.
Still don't have my mom's energy to party.
I don't even know how they had the energy. But it is just like amazing that they had a social life, but still had children in tow, and was like, yeah, we're just gonna do our thing. We're gonna be drinking, talking over here, playing dominoes, all sorts of things, and the kids just yeah, go ahead, run wild, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
It was just so I felt like when we were together, there's always like a sense of liberation, right?
Yes.
Because you wasn't confined to just staying at home or just being in your room. It was like, okay, we had a social life, and it was with our family and friends and other relatives, extended relatives. So we didn't really miss out. When you think about it, it's like we really didn't miss out.
You made a really good point. They did have a social life.
Yeah,
it kind of makes me feel sad about my status.
I'm telling you.
All of you.
I'm just like, wait a minute. I was thinking about it. I was just like,
I've never thought of it
always
like that.
out.
Yes.
We were always out.
And let me
In
tell you,
somebody's house or something.
Or traveling to the DR.
And let me tell you, my father prides himself because when I used to have my job, I would be like, ay, papá, yo estoy tan cansado. Yo trabajaba 6 días. And now I'm like, yo, and you used to party too? Like, what?
Yes.
It's like, Maggie, you weak. You
How are you doing that?
My father worked 2 jobs. Our father worked 2 jobs, Monday through Friday. He was working crazy
And he still had a
hours.
social life.
Yes,
He still had a social life.
still had the energy for it.
Let me tell you, we need to step up our game.
Let him
We
sleep
really
in on
do.
Saturday. He's good. Saturday night,
Yeah.
he's ready.
That man was for the streets. He loved the party.
When
He loved the party.
I remember vividly, like growing up, in our grandmother's house, se jugaba bingo.
Oh,
night,
yes.
Saturday night, and I think even some Sundays.
With Sábado Gigante in the background.
Especially on Sundays, durante el día.
Durante el día,
Pero-
o si los muchachos no tenían escuela el lunes.
Okay.
Pero Friday nights and Saturday nights, mommy say, let me tell you, mommy was very like strict too. No, esto no se hace, whatever. Pero desde que llegaba that Friday night, mommy used to go. And they used to play bingo till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I used to love it because yo andaba suelta en el bingo.
No, ahí es que se veían los novios escondidos.
Oh, yeah. Mami, ¿tú vas a jugar bingo? Okay. Okay, right. Yeah.
Only needed si se tenía que hacer un mandado.
Right.
Oh, that was the best.
Yeah. She out there playing bingo, and my father either, domino or something.
Dominoes.
And they would be like, oh my God, yes!
Yeah.
Freedom!
I love it.
You're crazy.
Oh my
And it's
God.
like, since you're talking about all of that, right? What kind of traditions do you guys carry still to today, or that you practice? Let's say that your parents taught you, or that you learned from your abuela or tia. Like for me, I would say that it's the way I am with my daughter with certain things. I can see my mother in me. Like, a veces se me estafa el coño, like, hello. Certain things are like food, or Saturday I have to clean con mi música, and all of a sudden I'm listening to Ana Gabriel or like something like that. But I carry so much from like our culture that I sometimes say, oh my God, that is not like what everybody else does.
Yeah.
Us.
Yeah. When you say that, it makes me think about. So I have an altar that I keep for family that passed away. So I have my father and my grandparents there, and so I always give them their cafecito, water, and I keep it. And I always have my kids. I'm like, here, go take this, and take this to the altar. And I was thinking about that the other day, and I was just like, I know their friends probably like, what's going on over here? Why they got coffee on this altar? Why she got a glass of water behind the door?
Oh my God, I remember that.
Yes.
Those are stuff that I have, and my kids, I know my kids, they're used to it. It's not, it's not abnormal to them. They're just like, yeah, we're offering to our ancestors, and that's something that, my father passed on, and my, our aunts. I mean, like we're lighting candles for family members. You know what I'm saying? So it's just it's not unusual for us to make offerings to our ancestors before us. It's like we're just paying it forward and paying that respect. And so I always keep that. And my kids, they're used to seeing it. They know it's there, and they're part of it. When I'm making the coffee, I'm like, Gabriel, here, take this to the altar, and make sure you say hello to your grandfather.
Right. Keep that spiritual connection alive, because I do believe they watch over us. I know they do. It's not even a belief, it's just a fact for me. I'd say baños, pulgantes. No, just kidding. Baños, yes. Pulgantes, not so much. But yeah, like that. And I think that just goes along with the spirituality thing. I remember being younger, and it was like we'd have these baths with roses and stuff. It's like good luck, when I sweated and all that good stuff. And it's like, yeah, actually red roses are like the highest vibrating plant. So it does uplift your vibrations and your frequencies. And it is something that many Dominicans do, some don't, but in our family we did.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My grandfather had like a whole bush of red roses right in front of the house.
Oh,
And he was
beautiful.
there for it all the time. He was huge on plants. So he would go away, like every morning, water all his plants and take care of all his roses.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I remember all of that. And I love to do those offerings. We grew up with the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Similar to you guys, like our mom. I remember she's Pentecostal now. I call it the cult for fun. So she doesn't do it, anymore. But growing up, she had an altar, and when we lived in DR, because I lived there for a while, in the patio, she made like this little casita for her santos.
Oh,
And all her santos were there, and she will do like offerings too. So I have my altar as well, and I do the water and the coffee too. And one thing that we do is for New Year's, all of my clothes need to be washed. The New Year's que no me puede esperar a mí with dirty clothes, and I make sure my house is clean, and the incense all over. That's one thing that I've learned from her that I do, and my son loves it. He's like, Mama, incense, I love it.
Yeah, good.
You would see him with the little can all over. Yeah.
I'm like, my kids is like, oh my God, take that smoke over.
My kids too.
You need it.
Yeah.
You need it.
Yeah, and then I'd be like, you need it the most, Mira.
Basically. Maggie, I hate to break it to you though, because the real New Year is spring, and this is a fake New Year. But no, that pressure of always having to. I stopped that last year. I was like, you know what, this is bullshit. Because what are we doing in the middle of winter? This is the middle of winter. This isn't real. I was like, no, this is not. We're supposed to be planting seeds. But I feel you, Maggie.
Yeah. It's the traditions. Like the thing is, I always like traveling to DR. I still do it, right? I still, and my kids, they spend summers there. They were able to also, we would go and visit our families, go to the campo. And it's all the things that we used to do when we were little girls.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful because when you're there, you get to really, like you said it, like you feel like you're home. And so all these memories come up, and it's just sharing it with your kids. Like the crazy things you used to do when you were a little girl, you would go visit.
Right.
But yeah, but the one thing that I noticed, I might, and of course the tradition of making sure to get together with family. But I think the one tradition that, it's not even a tradition. It's more of like being a mom. I know when my Dominican mom is awakened. Like, I think I shared this the last time we recorded together. My son came from college, and I became my mom.
Yes.
I cook like there was no tomorrow. Hice tres golpe, chuleta. Let me tell you, I don't eat like that.
Right.
When he's not
My
here.
husband was like, can you come home more often? Please come home. That's what Papa used to tell me.
I used to work
because mommy was the same way. She would, whenever we would come home, when we would go away to school, or when they ended up moving to Florida and we would go visit, we would have 3-4 different types of meals in one day, and it's whatever we loved. And the funny thing about it, she used to always say that she hated cooking, right? And I say the same thing, like, oh, I hate cooking, but I love to cook when loved ones come around. Like, it makes me happy. Like, ooh, I'm gonna make you something, like, because this is, I know you like this, or you're gonna really like this. And my mother was the same way. I think, being that I was reflecting on this, what I don't like is the cleaning part. So it's not that I don't like cooking, it's I just don't like the cleaning part. Yeah. But there was like a level of love when my mother would cook. It was like you just knew it was made with love. And for someone to hate cooking can't make food with this level of love and it be good, right? So it was like, okay, it's not that she hated cooking. She just didn't like the extra work that came around that.
Yes.
But it was just like, you felt loved. And I feel like food is a big part of our culture. Right?
Absolutely.
It's just, it's filled with love. When I see someone making a meal, and when I would go to like my tia's house and they would make food for, like, what do you want? And you give her whatever, and she'll have it for you, and it's so delicious. It's like, oh my goodness, it's like you just falling in love.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like my father's love language is cooking.
It's food. Yeah, he loves to cook.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
He's the one that cooks. My mom doesn't really cook. He cooks all the time, and that's the way that he shows love. Yeah, and I think that's the tradition. So when I saw my son coming back home, I was just doing all of that because I'm so accustomed to. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You want to feed him.
Yeah, and then it was so funny because when I dropped him off on Sunday, I was like, "Déjame ir a comprar the brown rice, the mixed veggies."
the chicken breast,
the poaching drinks.
My poor baby.
But it's so crazy how then, like, even like when you go to DR, the first thing they want to do, everybody wants to just feed you.
Feed you.
Yes.
Yes.
No matter where you
Get the comer. Like, it's constant food and everything is so good and like and just
and
it is, and
not eat everything.
And that's how it is, because growing up in DR, when I was a teenager and I was in high school in DR, my friends would have parties that I was never allowed to go. Pero in the parties, it was teenagers, y ella cocinaba. ¿Qué un sancocho vamos a hacer?
Un sancocho.
Empaquetada. And I'm like, these parties are teenagers from high school. Street.
I can't even do that now.
No. My cousin, our primo hermano, he's the one that makes the sancocho. We're like, okay, you making that great, because I'm not doing that.
I could do it like two grupo, like we've done it, my cousins and I, but yo sola de que cocinar.
No.
All those ingredients would give me anxiety.
Yes, that
Too much.
Wow.
I know. But I love, food is such an amazing part of our culture and what brings like everyone together. Like, I love it. And what has been like both of yours experience, and you ladies can like share yours, like just visiting DR as a child? Do you remember like anything that, like, I remember going to the colmados. I remember things that I wasn't allowed to do. Like, I also remember like rain, like running and hanging out and playing in the rain, and that was allowed.
Yes.
I remember cleaning the house with buckets of water and even cleaning the wall. All those things. I'm like, wow, you could do that? And then I can do it in the United States. Like,
it was like a level of freedom that you didn't have when you were in the States. It was, and I don't know if it was because they felt like, oh, this is home, so this is what we do, and we know
they felt safe there. I think it was a safe space for them.
Yeah, it was. Because you're right. I felt the same way when we used to go to DR. We were able to, walk around town like with no problem. It wasn't
with the
like
this big primo we just met.
Right. It wasn't like no big deal. And I was like, oh, okay.
They're like, thanks. All right.
I like this.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, even though my best friend, she would describe the way Nachi and I would go to DR. She says we went there as tourists, but and she says that because, look, my father was a man that he earned his money and he wanted to travel comfortably. So when we would go to DR, we would stay at hotels, and that wasn't a slight on anyone. He's just like, I want to be comfortable, and he was, and so we were a part of that package. So it was fantastic, right? And but we went one time with our aunt We went for a month because my parents didn't come with us. And we actually stayed in a house. We had to be under a mosquito net. We were playing with the kids in the neighborhood without shoes and stuff and just wilding out. And I was like, this is cool, but I don't know if I could do this every summer. I was like, I like the pools and stuff at the hotels. And if that means it has to be with Franco y Blanca, well, okay, then it's with them. But there was, even when we went with our parents, and even if we were at the resort, when we would go to visit our family, it's like, yeah, go out, just go run around. It didn't matter. Yeah, go to the colmado, go buy some dulce de leche and shit like that. And it was great. It was fun. And I love that. I'm forever grateful for those memories.
Yeah. Well, I didn't experience Dominican hotels until I was an adult. And when I was a little girl, we used to actually go to my grandmother's house, which was in the countryside. So it was a really interesting experience. But I do remember when it was time for us to come back to New York, I would cry. I didn't want to come back. And I remember as a little girl even telling my father, like, why did you decide to migrate to New York? Why couldn't you come, like, I don't know, to Miami or Florida?
It's so grim and gray.
And, he was like, well, aquí la que estaba no trabajo, aquí que está no trabajo. So,
it's all about that work.
Yeah. But, the experience, like at first, it was very different, but I fell in love with nature and just being in the campo and just taking off the shoes and playing hide and seek with my cousins that I just met 2 minutes ago.
And you were grounding yourself by being around nature that way. You were naturally, and as a child, that's important.
Yeah.
And you remember Grandpa and Grandma, because Grandpa and Grandma took care of us sometime too. And remember we stood with Grandpa. Well, did you stay with Grandpa and Grandma for that, like an extended amount of time? So it was your sisters. So her bigger sisters and I stayed in DR, and I went to school there.
Okay.
But Grandpa and Grandma were part of this country club, El Club.
El Matún.
El Matún. So we would go, and there was like a pool, and I remember like on the days that they would play bingo in El Matún. So we got to experience so much because we went wherever they went. And we got to sleep on the beach, and they took us everywhere.
I love it.
Yeah.
So it was a very nice experience growing up that way with Grandpa and Grandma.
Yeah.
My experience was similar. I mean, most of my life, I lived in DR actually, all through like elementary school and high school. So I didn't go to DR for vacation. DR was literally home.
Right.
But like I lived in Santiago, and I have my rules, and my mom, you can't go here, you can't go there, whatever. But when we would go to the campo to visit like my mom's mom, there yo andaba suelta. I will, meet up with the cousins, and eso era, caminando and the whole time. So that was a one moment that I was like, like free. So it was great.
The campo.
Yeah.
So my mother, when we talk about my grandmother and being in the campo, that's my maternal grandmother.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when Heidi talks about abuelo, grandpa, that's our paternal grandfather.
Oh, okay.
So there's two different experiences. Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think, I think back about how visiting DR was humbling for me, right? My father, especially, he grew up very, very poor, and his parents died before he was like 6 years old. So when you hear about getting it from the mud, that was him, right? And one thing that he always did was, for him was to give back. And whenever we go to DR, he would do these events, and he would bring like bunch of toys and
Watches, just any
watches.
shoes, clothes,
And
Wow.
like
everything,
for
everything.
us, it's not like, anything big, but when we would bring it to this event, when we would do this event, it was like the joy that we would see the
Yes.
children
Yeah.
have when they
Yeah.
received it. It was like, damn,
Yeah.
Yes.
that's, you got,
We knew how good we had it.
yes,
Yeah.
we did. It
Yes.
was
Those
very,
experiences.
it's very humbling. It's very humbling because you see, what they don't have, how hard it is to just make ends meet. And when especially like for my father, what he experienced growing up, he knows what it is to be hungry and not
Yes.
have dinner, right? Like, it wasn't even, oh, I'm just hungry because I'm bored. It was, now I'm hungry because I haven't eaten all day and I'm not going to eat today because I don't got any food.
Right.
And so he knows that. And it's funny because when my kids were little and they would visit him in Florida, he would call me and he says, yeah, they were waiting for me when I got home, and it was like really late at night. And he's like, I gave them ice cream. They asked me for ice cream. They're like, Papa,
Like at 11 o'clock at
ice
night.
cream? And I said, you didn't give it to them, right? He's like, of course I gave it to them. And I said, but why, Papi? It's so late and that's a lot of sugar. He was like, Mommy, I can't say no. He was like, I know what it is to want something. And then, and I was just like, all right, I get it. So it's like he never forgot that. And he always wanted to give back. So it was just like, while we stayed in the hotel, we were still going into town. We were still seeing family.
Right.
We were still giving back and experiencing, just giving back and just bringing joy to other people because we know how good we have it. No, we're not like rich people, but we have it better than, some
Obviously,
people in the town that they're from. So why not give back? And so that's always been humbling. Like I look back at that and those experience, and I'm always grateful for what we have, our life growing up, what our parents have sacrificed for us. And so just knowing that, I even think about my own kids. It's like, well, how can I humble these two? Because they're just like entitled, and I feel like a lot of kids are that that
nowadays?
way these
Absolutely.
days, right? It's just like they're entitled. I'm
but I
like,
think what stopped us from feeling so entitled was because he took us and he showed us without telling us. It was just it was through acts, right? He's like, this is what you do. You give back, and you see how these kids, their eyes light up for this toy that was probably 99 cents from the dollar store. And for us, we're like, we want the $14 Barbie, right? And when we saw the reaction at a young age, the young age that we were, you're just like, okay, wow,
but
they're
even
excited
like,
about that. And I that's important. That's
absolutely.
huge.
Yep. And also like seeing what your hometown needs. Like I remember he worked with, the fire station sometimes, like once the ambulances are at a certain, they've had it for a certain amount of years, they just take it, send it to the junkyard or whatever. And I remember Bobby was working with the fire station to find out a way that he can have them, donate that ambulance to his hometown. And you think about like it wasn't like
And he got it done. I don't even know how. Like
I don't know.
That's amazing.
Like he knew that there was a need, that his hometown needed something, and he knew the abundance of the city that he was living in, that they would freaking throw out a 10-year-old ambulance in the junkyard, which was good enough to, it's still usable. It's in working condition. It's just that they just have a timeline of how long they keep an ambulance. And the fact that he was just like, no, let's work this out. So it's just like the whole idea of you always give back to, and making sure that, yes, while you made it, think about the people that you left behind, because they still need, and you want to be able to give back. And that's just something that I've always taken away from our experience going to DR and the relationships that we've had along the years. I mean, to me, it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me of, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, I don't know if you guys also, your parents used to do the whole caja thing.
Yeah.
They would do a whole bunch of cajas to send to DR, right? Yes. For every, and it was things like for the vecino, the neighbor, the school, the this and that. And it's so true. Like at the moment when you're small, you're not really, you are paying attention, but this is your norm.
Right.
This is your norm. So it's not like, oh my God, right?
You send stuff back. They need it, right? You help out because you have more here.
Yeah. But when you think about it now as an adult, it's like, this is how they kept us very humble.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That all your like clothes and stuff that you didn't use, they always ask you, give me what you have.
Right.
So
my mother used to just take it.
Yes.
She doesn't
that would happen too.
Till this day, my parents live in DR and they come once a year. Until this day, and they're, in their 70s, everybody knows que antes de que mami venga, you clean out your closet and you save a bunch of bags.
Yeah.
Mami mira. And she looks through everything and she's like, okay, this is for this person, this is for that person, this is for that person. And to this day, they have their days where they go to my aunt's house, hacer caja. And my father is constantly fighting. Esta mujer y esta caja, and she's like, hay que mandar su caja. And they'll send like 5 and 6. And they're like pros. When it comes to packing these boxes, they can teach someone how to do that.
Maggie, have you used the barrels, the blue barrels?
And the barrels too.
Yeah. But it's it's what you were saying, like, for my mother, like her upbringing is very similar too. Like she came from the countryside. They were very poor. It was 8 kids. And my grandmother was a single mom, which back then, eso no existía.
No.
Right? So she was a single mom raising 8 kids. And my mom talks about the struggles, the hunger, the poverty. She talks about it. And I think she still carries that, that she's still in her mid-70s, anda con 8 cajas.
That's right. She's like, I know people who can use it.
Right. She's like, I can't throw this away. There's people that need it.
I love that. I love that about our people. I love it.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
It's crazy.
Always giving back.
I love that. I think we all grew up with that. Grandpa did that a lot, and grandma. Things used to, like I said, go missing.
Y esa camisa, ¿dónde está?
My mom be like, you haven't used that. I don't know in how long. And I'm like,
I used it the
other day. Seriously. Like, have you found yourself being too Dominican for certain people or too American for some Dominican?
Well,
how do you navigate those two
we're always
worlds?
too American.
Oh yeah, we're always going to be too American. I mean, like, I don't have an accent. People are just like, you Dominican? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you don't sound. I'm like, I don't know what that means. But okay. But like, I'm like, you want me to sound like Cardi B? I don't know. I don't know what to sound like her. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the fuck you want me to do.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like what does that really mean, though?
Yeah.
How do we sound?
Yeah.
Right.
Specific way.
And I don't get, Dominicans and Dominican Republic, they're actually, and I'll say, I don't speak Spanish as well as I should or whatever. And they're like, no, you're fine. Tú eres dominicana. I'm like, that's right. I'm like, yeah, I still am. Yeah. And so it's funny. I don't really get too much of like either too Dominican or too American, but I mean, like I said, it's more so, I didn't know you were Dominican, unless like they see my last name or something. And it's just like, they're like, you don't sound Dominican. And I get that a lot. And I just say, I don't know what that sounds like, but okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or you don't look Dominican. That's the other one too. I'm like, I don't know what.
Yeah, that's the one that I hate.
what does that look like? I don't think you know how
Right.
Dominicans look. They look like everything.
Like,
Right.
Yeah.
it's so
We
funny
are a
you say
mix
that.
of so
Everything.
many.
Everything. I was when I was working, I had a friend of mine. There's this girl that we used to work with. She's Dominican, and she was, she had like these very like beautiful green eyes. And my friend who was white, she's like, "Are those?" Like, she goes, "Maggie, are those like her eyes?" And I go, "Yes, they are." And she's like,
Right.
"How?" And I
Wow.
go, "Let me tell you something. We Dominicans,
This chick needs
we
to go to
look like
school.
everybody."
Right. We got a
I go,
mix
"We
of-
look like everybody." I go, "We look like everybody." Okay, there's not a. This is what a Dominican person looks
Yeah,
like.
no.
We look like everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not a look.
No, there's not a look. And I think that needs to be demystified. There's no Dominican look.
No.
There is
not
that.
at all.
Or a
It's
Puerto
a
Rican look, because
culture.
they'll be like, "Oh, you look Puerto Rican."
Oh,
Like,
yeah. I can imagine you got
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and it's like, what does that look like again?
I
What
think
does
I
that
guess we
look like?
We all look the same. Yes, Puerto Ricans. Yeah, we all look the same. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
People
Yeah,
are just- I can't.
I've never gotten that. Like, Dominicans know that I am Dominican. I guess I look Dominican.
Mi gente.
Right? Anyway, pero like other people
Nuestra
don't.
gente jala gente. Like, we
Yeah.
attract
Like
one
with my
another.
business, I worked with some people. Like, I work with a lot of people that are like from like India, and they are like, "Are you from India?" And I'm like, "No, I'm Dominican." And they're like, "No, really?" I'm
You're
like, "Yeah, I'm
like,
Dominican."
no,
Yeah.
you India.
Yes. They're like, I'm like, "No, I'm Dominican."
My mother and my little
They
brother.
look like Indians.
They look Indian. Certain people in our family look very Indian. Yeah.
Yeah. I get the opposite. Like, I have people, like, I'll be in TJ Maxx or Marshall, minding my business, and there's this Dominican old lady or mid-age, and she'll be like, "Excuse me, you speak Spanish?" And I'm like, "¿Qué es lo que usted quiere, doña?"
Yeah, yeah.
Ay, tú eres dominicana.
I love it.
¿Cómo la ayudo? And they'd be so surprised.
Yeah.
So I don't get that. It's either
Yeah.
I'm either Puerto Rican or black. But a lot of people don't put it together that I'm Dominican. I don't know why.
So funny.
I think I'm handpicked by Dominicans. They target me wherever I'm at. And they come de una vez y
They
que,
see you.
"Mira, ayúdame, por favor." Déjame.
I know.
Dame la información.
No, I got it.
Dígame. I don't know. Everywhere I go, they like, "Mira, ven acá."
You're the Dominican magnet.
It's American magnet. Everywhere. But uno de nosotros. And Alicia's like, my daughter, she's like, "How do they know you speak Spanish?" I'm like, "I don't know."
I have a look.
On your forehead.
This was so beautiful. And I thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for sharing your family story and your parents' stories, because I think we lived those experiences and we were young and we loved them. But when we talk about them as adults, it's like you see them with different lens.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like there's just so much pride.
Yeah.
It brings so much joy. And you're like,
Yes.
damn, I was so lucky to go through those
Yes.
experiences.
Yes.
It's just like a completely different way of seeing it. And thank you for sharing that with us. How do you move forward with your world being Dominican, but being in this country, right? Like how do you navigate that? Like, you continue to be true to your roots. You share that with your family. You share it with, if you have kids, the kids. How do you find that let's meet halfway, this American culture, this American world, while also staying true to your roots?
Yeah. For me, I think it's about building those stories, right? I remember years ago, I started asking my mom, I said, Mommy, how do you make, asking for recipes for different dishes, right? Because in my head, I just thought like, oh, I want to copy these recipes because one day, although I don't really cook as much, I don't really cook too much. I still want to have it so that if I wanted to give it to my children, and they want it, they have something that they can look back to. Like, oh, this is, a traditional dish that, my Dominican side, this is what they eat, and this is the type of food that we eat. And so that was like one thing I thought about. And then when our father passed away and we were going through a lot of different things because we were moving my mother out, I started collecting what I call the archive. I said, no, we're going to keep this. This is going to be part of the archive. And the master was like, okay. So I would keep things that would help us tell the story, continue telling the story of our parents. I feel like sometimes, we don't have that information because, people passed away long before we were even born. Like I told you about my father, his parents died before he was 6. So, and his side of the family, we don't know very well. We know my mother's side of the family, and and we're close to them, but we don't really know my father's side of the family. So it's just like we have this other side that we aren't connected. And so for me, it's like it's important that I keep all that information about my father and my mother so that when I'm long gone and I have grandchildren and great grandchildren, that I have something that they can look back to and be like, oh, that's, those are my people right there. My family's from Dominican Republic, and at least encourage them and excite them to even want to look into it, because I feel like with each generation that's born in the United States, you become more far removed from our
You
culture.
lose a little bit.
So true.
You lose a little bit.
You do. And I feel like we gotta keep it somehow, and not
Like
in a way that you like,
almost.
and not in a way that you're like force feeding them, because you know how kids are. They're just like,
it doesn't resonate when you do that.
But if you do stuff like, for me, like I said, just collecting those things, and we had a cousin that was interviewing all of our tias because she wanted to hear like what was their story coming to the United States, and how did that look, and what was their experience, and how did they feel about all of that. And I feel like collecting those stories are important because we could share that. We don't talk about it a lot, and we all have beautiful stories, and I feel like that's just something that we can definitely pass down. I get, to be honest, my children's father, his family is from down south here in Virginia, and they have like a family historian, and she goes back generations, and I get jealous because I'm like,
I know. I wish
that.
we had that.
I want to be able to go back generations and see, like connect those dots. And I just feel
I want to do that without giving up DNA. I'm not doing ancestry tax. Like, I want to do that without giving up the DNA. Like, how can we get that?
Right. But I'm like, but for me, it's like, well, I think at the very least, we should be able to collect, our parents' stories and our own stories, and kind of pass that along to our children or our nieces or our nephews, and for them to just have something to hold on to, for them to look back, for them to share as well. Like, this is where my ancestors came from, and this is our culture. And I feel like that's, we kind of continue bringing that forth in future generations.
Had a couple things that I ditto to everything, but also I say, for me, it's really just navigating according to my intuition. And what I mean by that is that there are certain things that I'm called to do, and in doing so, it helps observe those traditions. So our podcast, right? I was called to do that. Whatever purpose the podcast serves, it's whatever. But it was intentional naming the podcast I'm Not Yelling, I'm Dominican. While some Dominicans may be like, well, you're more American. Many don't. Many are like, yeah, tú eres dominicana. I'm like, that's right. So I'm proud, right? I'm proud that, yes, I was born in this country. I was raised here. I love it. But I'm so grateful that I came from a tradition of just like family, love, joy. I mean, I feel like with Dominicans, we are a joyful people. We will crack a joke at everything and everybody's expense. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
It's disrespectful, but it's so funny at the same time. And I love it. I love that about our people. And I don't see that allowed with other cultures, but with us, it's just joy. It is about, and it's hard to even describe even as I say it, but you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like carrying that through in the way that I know I can, the way that comes natural to me, but that comes from my roots. Like that's from that country, that's from the soil, right? So for me, that's how I help navigate that and keep it alive. Everybody's going to have this podcast in infamy. I'll hear this. There you go. We're doing the work right now, ladies. We're doing the work together.
We are.
You're absolutely
And let
right.
me tell you, it's not like we have our Dominican heritage that we carry so dearly and we love it. And then there's a part of us that, being a Dominican and a New Yorker, it's a whole species. Like, this is some real shit. Like, let me tell you, because we bring that same passion into being a New Yorker, too. Like, there's some... So... Nachi, you're there, but you're a New Yorker, girl.
I can't get away from it. Let me tell you, like, a couple of years ago, and I've been here, we're talking about double digits already. A couple of years ago, I was talking to my HR. We had a new HR director, and he's talking to me. He's like, are you from up north? And I looked at him, and I said,
are you a Yankee?
Yeah, that's how they say it up here. Are you from? I was like, I'm from New York. I said, and he's like, oh.
He said York.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, he was like,
no, and with the attitude, I'm from New York.
Yeah, no. I'm like, yes, I am. But it's like, I go hard for myself. Like, I talk a lot of shit about New York, but I go hard for it as well.
You're a New Yorker. You can talk shit about it.
Right.
It's a love and hate relationship.
Oh, yeah.
With New York.
Don't say nothing slick.
That's right.
Watch your mouth.
Yes. Ladies, it's been so amazing connecting with both of you. Oh my gosh. And I'm telling you, it's like every time we talk to you guys, it's like more connections, so many things we can relate on. And it just feels like family. Like primas already,
Prima,
La prima that we just met 10 minutes ago.
That's it. Honestly, when you said you guys grew up around on the Upper West Side, and when we first spoke, I was telling Nachi because Papi had an apartment when he first moved to New York City, like in the 70s. I want to say in the 70s, like maybe Central Park West or Amsterdam or something. And I was just thinking, I was like, I'm sure they probably, somebody in their family knows Papi. And I'm like,
probably.
I'm pretty sure.
Probably.
100% positive.
Probably.
I'm sure we've seen them at a party. We just don't remember because we were probably jumping on the bunk and somebody almost fell. I bet one of them were there. I don't know.
Probably because I know that when they first came to New York, they used to live on 84th Street, right, guys? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 84th Street. And then they moved to 92nd Street, but they didn't know all the Dominicans in that neighborhood.
It's only selected people at that time.
As we found out tonight, they were social butterflies.
Yeah, Nachi, thank you for putting that out there.
I can't handle going out and having kids. Hello, me.
Yeah.
No
I was just thinking
way.
about it. I'm like, that is so true. They had an event every weekend and a big one.
Literally.
Yes.
Every weekend.
And in our building, it would be like music on every floor. Like, I love how like crazy it was, because there was times like I would just walk up the stairs and I'm like, oh, that's this person. Oh, that's this. Oh, this is in this house.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, you know what? There's hip hop here. Let me go inside here. Oh,
It was like Webster Hall. Have you guys? It was like
And then-
Webster Hall. If you ever
Yes, yes.
Yes. Every room, right? There's a different
every
room.
room.
Maggie, yes. It was Webster Hall up in
You know,
there.
you know. If you fucking know, yes.
Gosh.
Don't let it be a holiday. Like around Christmas, around this time, it was insane. Oh, and
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I thank all of like our parents collectively for doing this for us. All our tias, our grandparents, all they did, their sacrifice for us to have that within us, because they made sure they engraved that in us, and
Yeah.
we can do it for our generations as tias, as moms, as everything. So
Yep.
Yes.
Praise God.
Thank you so
Yes.
much, ladies, for being here. This
Thank
was
you.
so much
Yeah,
fun.
this was so
Thank
much fun.
you.
This is a
Thank you.
beautiful,
You're very
beautiful
welcome.
topic.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
where can we find you, ladies? Where can we find you?
On all the major podcast platforms. I'm Not Yelling, I'm Dominican. You can also go find us at www.imnotyelling.co. That's our website, so you can access everything, that all the episodes, all that good stuff. YouTube as well, at I'm Not Yelling _. So yes, please find us. Spread the word, because we need to
And it
share
will
our
be-
voices.
Yes, it will be on our show notes as well, all the information, so you guys can just click on the link and follow these beauties.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
love.
Thank you.
Thank you. Until next time.
Next time.